If you notice this object behind us, that is the world's fastest manned jet-powered plane. It's the only one in the world. This B model is the only one in the world. The B model indicates that it's got this second cockpit there, which makes it a trainer. So this is the training plane. The trainer would fly in the back cockpit, the trainer would be in the front cockpit. The trainer would fly this airplane. So let's walk around this way. You just stand back here at the center line of the airplane and get a sense.
I've seen it. I've been on the one in
You get a sense of its size.
That was on the
It's huge.
It's only a train.
That's a train.
My God.
The A models look exactly like, except it didn't have that other cockpit.
You see one of these.
What?
By Missouri and Mobile, they had one. Sitting out beside the hangar.
So we're going to walk this way, but I want you to see underneath the wings here. Notice this pattern of aluminum skin.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yep.
Have we seen that someplace else?
Yeah.
Try more.
Yeah.
Pinky shears were on the foresight.
This looks like it should
And this
be
thing is
enough
sweet.
space.
Yeah.
Stand here. This is the SR-71B Blackbird.
Blackbird.
Look, awesome as this airplane here. Never carried a gun, rocket, missile, bomb, nothing. Just cameras and listening devices. In 1956, we were overflying the Soviet Union and China and everything else. The CIA was watching the development of the Russian missiles, anti-aircraft missiles. So they went to Lockheed Corporation, Skunk Works Division specifically, because they would always build secret aircraft. And they said, we need an airplane that can fly faster than a Russian missile, that can fly higher than a Russian missile. That's going to be the airplane's defense. So they put their main designer on it, a very famous guy by the name of Kelly Johnson. He was their head engineer and designer. He's actually from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, from a little town called Ispany. And anyway, so they put Kelly Johnson on the team. His team of engineers went to work with slide rules, papers and pencils to figure out how to build this airplane. The first thing they figured out was if it's going to go faster than higher missiles, it's got to fly at 2,100 miles an hour, 2,100, and it's got to fly at 85,000 feet.
Oh.
This third thing they realized, just the friction from flying through the air at that speed, the surface temperature of the airplane is going to reach 600 degrees. How hot does your oven get? 550? Yeah, so you could bake a pizza on that surface really fast. So 550 degrees. They realized they couldn't use aluminum because it would lose its integrity, it would lose its shape and everything. But they could use a new material at that time called titanium. And there was a problem with titanium in that the United States didn't have the resources to create a lot of it. But the one country in the world that did have all the titanium was the Soviet Union. So the CIA wants to get titanium from the country we're going to overfly and spy on. So what do we do? Well, if you're the CIA, what you do is you build dummy companies around the world, and each one of those dummy companies import a little bit of titanium and collectively ship it all back to the United States so we can build the SR-71, put cameras on it, and fly back over the Soviet Union.
Wow.
So they did that in 1956. They designed it. 1964 was the first flight of the SR-71. In 1966, the other B model, because they built 2 B models and 28 A models. The other B model crashed and burned. That left this the only B model to fly, to train all the pilots for those other 28 aircraft for 30 years. Subsequently, this airplane's got more flight time, more flight hours than any other SR-71.
Is that what Gary Powers got shot down in?
Gary Powers was in a U-2,
Oh, that's it.
which was also designed by Kelly Johnson at the Skunk Works.
Same reason.
Yeah, he got shot down by a missile. But they were predicting this. 1956, he got shot down in 1960. So it never carried guns or missiles or bombs or anything. It carried cameras, very high resolution, very powerful cameras. They were located on either side of the fuselage, and in the nose, and in the tail. And they could fly at 85,000 feet, 2,100 miles an hour, and take a picture of a parking lot, pick out the cars in the parking lot. When you printed that picture out, you could read the license plates on that car, on those cars.
Wow.
Some people say that if you were standing in that parking lot and held a dime in your hand, that you could read the date of the dime.
Wow.
In the picture. But, so, a couple months ago, I was giving a gentleman a tour. And we started talking. I learned he worked for the Air Force. What do you do for the Air Force? Well, I'm a propulsion engineer. Really? Propulsion engineer? There's an engine over there that belongs to this plane I want you to tell me about. So we walked over there, we spent an hour talking about that engine. And what I learned was, well, I researched as well too. Each one of those engines would use 6,700 pounds of fuel 1 hour. 2 engines, that's over 13,000 pounds of fuel an hour. And this airplane had to carry all that fuel. Well, where would it carry it? From behind the fuselage, behind the cockpit, all the way to the tail. That center section is all fuel tank. And they used a fuel called JP7, which has a very high flash point, something akin of kerosene. You could put some on the ground and drop a match on it, it wouldn't catch fire. So they used that characteristic to advantage. When they built the fuel tank, they shaped it so it would come down into this chine edge, a sharp edge along the fuselage, and the jet fuel, the JP7, would help keep the fuselage cool. Then these big pointy things on the front here would travel 26 inches between all the way out and all the way in. And what those did was to control the amount of air going into the engines. So it carried so much fuel in this plane, it would carry 80,000 pounds. That's 40 tons of fuel in this airplane. So much so that it couldn't get off the ground with that much fuel in it. Not because it didn't have the power, it's because the landing gear and the tires would not support that amount of weight. So they had to put a small amount of fuel in it, get it airborne, and immediately refuel it.
Wow.
And then they would have tankers set up in his flight path, all around his flight path and back, ready to refuel it as it flew. So what else have we got? That's about it.
I heard something interesting about this. I don't know if it's true or not, but the faster this plane went, the more fuel efficient it was.
Yeah, that's a characteristic of the engine.
Yeah.
It's because it had something characteristic called ramjet. And at some point, air, when it's compressed enough, becomes flammable. It doesn't have to have fuel in it. All it has to have is be ignited. And if we go over there and look at that engine, you'll notice there's 9 big tubes that go from the inlet and go around the compressor section and they go to the afterburner section. And what that does, with the help of the inlets, it'll direct air in and around those tubes past the compressor section because the air at Mach 2 is already compressed. It'll go around the compressor section and dump into the afterburner section where it'll ignite without fuel. And so that will create its propulsion. So at Mach 2, this airplane gets better gas mileage than it does at 500 miles an hour. That's the basic theory around that. Don't quote me on any of that.
You're on tape right
So that's the SR-71 Blackbird. But I want to show you something by comparison. 1964. We look to the left. We see the Wright Flyer, 1903. 1903, man's first powered controlled flight. Come back to the SR-71, 1964, man's fastest jet-powered flight. 61 years difference from the first powered flight to the fastest powered flight. 61 years. I don't know about you guys, but that's within my lifespan.
That's very impressive.
Yeah.
Well, in '69, we were on the moon looking at the Earth.
Yeah.
So,
So if we come over here, I want to show you one more place. See that little tippy point?
Yeah.
That's a pitot tube. That's the same tube that was on the front of World War II planes that was invented in World War I. The World War I technology on the fastest airplane in the world. So I'm a docent. I work here every Friday from 9 to 5. And I stand up there and I wait for people to come through and they greet them. And last year I was standing up there. I was greeting people, and it was got to be 5 o'clock, about 5 minutes to 5, 2 hours from now. I'm getting a little parched because there's one guy left in the museum. He was walking around this plane. I'm waiting for him to leave because I'm doing my duty. I'm making sure everybody's seen to.
Behaving themselves.
Right. And I'm waiting for him to go because it's Friday night and I want a beer. And so he finally is leaving, and when he gets up there, he stops and looks at me and he said, "Do you have a Ford Tri-Motor?" Yeah.
Yes.
The silver airplane over there. "Do you have a Blackbird?" I'm thinking to myself, you were just looking at it. But yes, it's that big black airplane over there. He goes, "Can you tell me one element that those two birds have in common?" And I thought to myself, I could tell him landing gear, but I know he's digging for something deeper than that.
Yeah.
And I said to him, well, they both have corrugated skin. On the Tri-Motor is meant for strength, on the Blackbird it's meant for expansion, to deal with expansion and contraction of the wing surfaces. He said, "You're right." He put his hand out, and he shook my hand. He says, "I'm Stormy Boudreaux. I'm the last pilot to fly that plane."
Oh my
Wow.
gosh. What a thrill for you.
Yeah, it was a
For
thrill.
him too.
And it was 5 minutes to 5, and I immediately had a million questions running through my head. So on
Should have
October,
lined up here.
I should have taken him out to dinner, yes. He and his wife were actually on tour, going around and visiting all the museums and seeing all the airplanes that he had flown.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So on October, the first weekend on October 4th, 5th, and 6th, we're having an event here. It's called the Spyposium, Spy Plane. We're having 15 pilots and crew members of SR-71s come and visit us for the weekend and talk about their experience and put on talks to the audience. We're gonna have chairs set up here, and we're gonna have ladders and platforms up here. We're opening up the cockpits and let people peer inside for the correct amount of money. You can sit in one, I understand. And that's going on the first weekend in October, 4th, 5th, and 6th. And it's on our website, airzoo.org.
Cool.
What was the gentleman's name again? The last gentleman to fly the plane that you met?
Stormy Boudreaux.
Okay. I know there's a guy that wrote a book and he came to Oshkosh a few years ago. I don't remember if that was him or not. But
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them have written books.
Okay.
I can't give you a name anymore, but there's
Are
lots.
you a pilot?
No, I'm not. I've been inspired by my dad, who fought in World War II in France and Germany, and watching combat and the Black Sheep Squadron, and always playing with little green army men and playing with airplane models and stuff like that. We just always stuck close to it and read about it.
Thank you so much.
You're
This
welcome.
was a great talk.
You're welcome.
I started with control line planes at 12, and I'm
There
still
you go.
flying radio
Yeah.
control to this day.
Are you still going around in a circle like this?
I can still do it. I got a half a dozen of them still,
Really?
plus another 10 or 12 radio control.
I'm ADD and
But I-
don't have the attention span to be able to complete a model.
Oh.
I get to the point where I'm trying to put the decals on, they don't look right, and I just kind of
I used to build them and I had hospital ships and everything. I got tired of them one day. It was around the 4th of July. I blew them all up.
Oh yeah, firecrackers. You bet. You bet.
That's funny.
One at a time.
Well, you have
made
more
this really-
more about this stuff in your head than I can even remember.
Well, yeah, if you repeat it enough, it's
Well, yeah.
committed.
We really
But that
appreciate
was
it. We go
great.
to air museums all over, but I don't think I've ever learned as much.
I'm glad you did. I'm
One
glad you
talk.
learned something.
Yeah, I am too. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I told you about the most important thing about the Southwest camera, didn't I? Snoopy's prank, yeah. That's what you need to take with you. Snoopy flew that plane.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Enjoyed it.
You bet. Thank you.
I'm a volunteer as well. I volunteer at Oshkosh every year.
Do you?
Yeah.
Good for you. It's wonderful, isn't it?
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's best experience ever. You get to camp there and yeah, so much fun. And
You bet.
I'm not a pilot either, but you know, hopefully someday that changes. So
I don't have the desire to fly, but I like talking about it.
yeah. F-14 Tomcat. This is the plane that was made famous from the movie Top Gun. So is the Navy's air superiority fighter in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. And these are still flown today by Iran. And interesting enough, the most successful F-14 pilot is an Iranian. He shot the most enemy aircraft down in his F-14, so it's not even an American. One of the things that was cool about this plane is it has variable swept wings. At low speed, the wings slide out, and at high speed, they sweep in for less drag. Not really sure what's going on here. Pretty cool that this museum is also like an indoor theme park. Wish I came here as a kid. Look, the Red Baron above us. I think that's a bird dog.
I'm going to say thank you for my
P-40 Warhawk above us here. I don't know how well you could see it. I think on the other side it's an interesting color. So. I didn't even notice it till now, but there's a replica of a P-38 Lightning up there. Miniature version, one of my favorite planes. P-47 Thunderbolt. There's a plane that we didn't look at on the tour, and I forgot to look at when I was downstairs. What's interesting about this plane is that the engine is behind the pilot, but the propeller is still up front. I think this is either a P-39 Air Cobra or a P-63 King Cobra. I might be wrong on that. F-14. Awesome aircraft. Hornet. And we'll make our way to probably the coolest plane in the museum. It's a little bit dirty.